This is a story of Melanie Joseph, and she is joining us now on the line to talk about this and how a visitation agreement with her husband, they've been divorced for quite some time, and this visitation agreement goes back 6 years, back to 2014, but it was just all overturned, and there were some unbelievable conditions that were put into this by this judge in Broward County. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. Joining us now is Melanie Joseph, and I'm so sorry about what is happening in terms of your being unable to visit your son. Your son is, I think, 13 years old. Is that correct?
He just turned 14, and sadly, I missed his birthday this
Yes,
year.
and you've been blocked because of COVID. This all began in March. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we've been 7 months without being able to physically see each other because of the decision that his father made once COVID struck, that was his way of keeping my son away from me, which is, it's been an ongoing issue, but he used COVID to make it stick this time.
And typically, you have a spring, a summer, a Mother's Day visitations and things like that are all part of this visitation agreement. Those were all shut down. Specifically, those are mentioned. Those were all shut down because of COVID. And because of that happening, you took this to court, and there is an administrative hearing that was, you sent this to me, April the 2nd of this year. There was an administrative order that went out about these parenting and domestic relationship cases, saying we don't want to have a lot of emergency filings, so let's just go with what we currently have here. And yet this is not what the judge did. The judge in this particular case decided to overthrow everything, didn't he?
Correct. I have what my lawyer calls a very COVID crazy judge. So even though the administrative order was put out through, the courthouses, it doesn't really matter to this judge. He's just going to shut it down no matter what direction, no matter what's in front of him.
Yeah, the order, part of what the order said, each parent is prohibited from unreasonably restricting access to the child or to the other parent. Regular time sharing is set forth in the party's parenting plan or applicable court order shall continue, and so forth, and yet none of that did. And so you went to, you even went to Florida during the Mother's Day time sharing, and you were still denied that. When you went to the hearing, tell us a little bit about what the hearing was like with this COVID crazy judge.
So initially I thought I would be going to get my son that weekend. I thought that the father would be held in contempt, and I was just shocked with the answer, which was he was really angry at me. I guess this picture was, which again, I don't even know if he ever saw it because we never saw his face, and the picture was never entered into evidence. Yet it was a picture of me in my oral surgeon's office out of state during a non-mandated time, without a mask on my face and with a pistol on my hip because I'm in North Carolina, so open carry is a frequency here. And
so he looked at your Facebook post, and that was one of the things that we reported because the judge was outraged, allegedly, or at least your husband's counsel used the fact that you had a Facebook post where you did not wear a mask, and again, the open carry, and so the judge was angry about that.
Oh, he was very angry about that, and that's where he said I had the audacity to post that picture, and he labeled me an anti-masker of people, which I had told him I follow CDC guidelines, and he punished me, and his punishment was quite severe, where he had said that in order to see my son again, I had to get the vaccine for COVID. My son had to get the vaccine for COVID. I had to pay for supervised visitation. I had to go to Broward County. I have to wear a mask. And these are all the criteria that he had set for me to even consider timeshare again with my son, which is ludicrous. And my son's father has 2 other children and 2 other mothers, and they're frequently having their visitation with their mothers. Yet I've been the one who's been exited out of my son's life because of COVID, which I've never had.
You have to quarantine for 14 days if you go there, and you got to wear a mask. Is there a mask mandate still going on in Florida? I thought that DeSantis said, I know he's opened up restaurants. You still have to wear masks in public in Florida?
I don't believe so. I believe they're in phase 3, which is, there's been a lot of big changes with that, from my understanding.
Well, I found it interesting that the judge himself never showed up, and he had a picture of himself there the entire hearing. I mean, he didn't have a Zoom thing. He had just a photograph of himself there at the bench or something. Is that what?
Yeah. we're quite sure that he wasn't really coherent because every time that we would object, or every time that, anything was tried to be entered upon my counsel, he just didn't respond, or it just didn't seem like he was really there until the very end when he gave that final ruling. So yeah, he was supposed to have shown his face, and it really broke me that you're going to tell me that my son's being taken away from me indefinitely and not even look me in the eye when you're going to say something like that to me. I've been my son's mother for 14 years.
Yeah.
And this is a time in everyone's life that they shouldn't be restricted from their child. It's very hard for children to wrap their minds around what's going on as it is, but yet to be separated from their loved one is it's cruel punishment.
And we have a picture of him, I guess, so you could say that he's present here in this interview as much as he was in your court case. There's a smiling judge, Dale Cohen, holding his gavel and taking away a child from his mother and saying, you're not going to see him unless you've got supervised visitation, everybody wearing a mask. You will have to quarantine for 14 days before even that will happen at your expense. You got to go to Florida. You're living in North Carolina now. You got to go to Florida, stay there for 14 days. But then he's also has some other conditions which were absolutely amazing to me. This is going to go on until COVID is over. But as you point out, there's no definition of when COVID is going to end. We've seen this many places before, right?
Yeah. Or he said it has to be eradicated. There can't be any cases or anything of that nature. So he made it impossible for me to see my son.
And then he also has a condition, another condition. COVID has got to be ended, whatever that means, and whenever that happens, by whatever definition, but he doesn't really have it. Your son has to receive a COVID vaccination, which, of course, does not exist. And you have to get a COVID vaccine, which does not exist. That's the most amazing thing to me.
And the thing is that he doesn't know my health. He doesn't know my son's health. He's not aware that my son has an exemption because of having injuries in the past with vaccines.
Yeah.
And so, he's stepping on our, I mean, there's so much liability there, and our constitutional rights and everything is just being, thrown in front of this judge to make decisions that he has no right making.
Well, the bottom line is that he's in violation of the administrative order, which said, let's just leave this alone. We don't need a lot of emergency hearings and so forth. He's now just overturned the 6-year agreement because he doesn't like the fact that you were seen on Facebook without a mask. And now it's going to have to be quarantines and masks and vaccines, and you're not going to see your kid again unless you've got a vaccine, which doesn't exist, or until COVID ends, which he doesn't have a definition for, right?
Yeah, that was his ruling. Absolutely.
Wow. And you sent this to me. You said you've been looking into his background. You found that he's also been involved with taking away another mother's rights there in Broward County, Florida, for going to the beach without a mask.
Yeah.
He seems to have an obsession with this, doesn't he?
He does. It was a 22-month-old baby, and she has lost her visitation rights as well. So, and he also has a history of misconduct and, impulse decisions, and it's something that he's just never been held accountable for. It's just something that he continues to do with many other cases, not just involving COVID, because I've had mother step forward as to his impulse decision making. So I don't really believe that he actually pays attention to the case. I think he just makes decisions based on his own perception of what kind of day he's having.
Yeah, this is very troubling on so many different levels. I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And the fact that a judge could now mandate vaccines as part of a visitation, change the visitation stuff, mandate masks, punish parents who don't wear masks is absolutely outrageous. I'm so sorry this is happening to you, Melanie Joseph. Keep us in touch with what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll be right back.